Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to be switching it up today. We're going to go over a little bit about my passion for barbecue and how to make beer can chicken. So, I know a lot of you are probably asking yourself by now, what the hell am I looking at? Guys, this is the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off. It's a group of people that take barbecue entirely too seriously, and it's the largest barbecue cook-off in Texas, which is to say a lot. You're talking over 300 teams in one spot. It takes up the entire parking lot of SeaWorld. So me, some family, and some friends, we get together every year with our team called Shoot to Grill, and it's 3 days of smelling like barbecue, drinking, gambling, and having a great time. And that's not to mention stuffing our faces with some of the best barbecue you've ever tasted. So in this video, what I wanted to do, because I get asked all the time, I tweet about it every time I make it, so people get really curious about how to make beer can chicken. It's the best way to make chicken. It's the tastiest, it's the juiciest, it's delicious, especially if you love barbecue. Now don't get intimidated with the size of some of the grills that you see in this video or some of the equipment that we're using. You can use really simple things to make this. I used a Weber grill to make my beer can chicken in the beginning. And all you need is a Weber grill, or just a grill big enough to where you can fit the chicken and put your heat source off to one side and be able to cover it up. And that's all you need. So just keep that in mind when you're watching this. So for this first part, we're going to go over to my man Mike here. Is my father-in-law. He's the fireman on our team. And what he's in charge of is making sure the fires are good to go on the grill, making sure that everything's right in that area. Now remember, you don't need a grill this large. You can do the same thing that we're doing here, just scale it down to whatever size your grill is. And what you want to do is you want to get a good bed of coals here on the bottom. It's pretty much the basis of your fire. It's going to be what controls the heat in the beginning. So you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to put a shit ton of coals. You want to put enough to get the fire started and to get that wood burning. And with the wood, you want to make sure it's soaked in water, number one, because it makes a lot more smoke. And you want to use the right type of wood. Here we're using mesquite, and it depends on what type of flavors you want. That's something you can research on your own. I prefer mesquite with the chicken, but some people use a combination of mesquite and apple or cherry. It's up to you. And I typically start this fire about half an hour to an hour before I start cooking. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to get enough smoke and enough heat into the grill, get everything sustained before you put your food on there. You don't want to put your food on there and then suddenly realize that your vents are too open or that your heat is going to be too high. You want to get that fire under control and then maintain it by putting logs in as required. Now you may not have a big enough grill to use logs, so you can use wood chips to the exact same effect. Just soak them in water before you put them on there, and then just keep putting wood chips on to maintain the fire. And you're trying to keep it at about 350 degrees. It can be a little higher, a little lower, but just think, no higher than 400, no lower than 300. Now at the same time, you can get your seasoning ready that you're going to be putting on the chicken, and this is something that I highly encourage you to experiment with. Just have fun with this. If you want to see what I use a little sugar, a little salt, a little seasoned salt, black pepper, basil, paprika, garlic powder. I even use a little chili powder sometimes. And I really experiment with this. There's no set measurement that I use. I just kind of throw it in, one at a time, kind of taste it as I go and make sure that I like what I come up with. And it's a lot of fun to do. I mean, sometimes I put some cumin and some celery salt, sometimes some brown sugar. Just experiment and have fun. Taste along the way. You can't go wrong. Don't worry about this part. Next step is to take that chicken, make sure you get all the gizzards and insides out, pat it dry, and you can see I'm using a little bit of the smaller chicken, and this is because this was for a competition. I wanted to make sure it got cooked in time and that it would fit inside of the container that we had to put the chicken in, so I didn't use a humongous chicken. And with the seasoning, man, just be generous. Just throw it everywhere, all over the skin on the outside. Make sure you put it on the inside. And even what I like to do is I like to separate, like going through the neck and separate the skin from the chicken breast. And just put the seasoning all under the skin as well. Just be really generous with this seasoning. It's gonna liquefy, and it's going to spread throughout the meat. And it's really difficult to over season at this point. I'm sure if you shoved like an entire cup of seasoning into the skin, you'd have a problem. But don't worry about, over seasoning this chicken. Just be generous and make sure you get a good layer everywhere. Now the next part is the fun part, and also a point for debate, your beer selection. Now, people go with a lot of different types of beer for this, and you'll see that I'm using a Bud Light, which doesn't have a humongous flavor profile, like a Guinness or a Shinerbach or something like that. And the reason that I like to use the lighter lagers is because they evaporate more, and that's what some people don't even keep in mind when they choose their beer. They're usually just going for the super flavorful beers, but a lot of times they're too thick and they don't evaporate correctly. But this is also something that you can experiment with. You do get some really good flavor in there if you go with some of the more flavorful beers. I was going for really juicy, and I supplement the lack of flavor profile by putting seasoning in the beer. Now be careful when you're cutting open this can. I've cut my fingers open quite a few times, but they're pretty scarred up, so I can do stuff like this. Just be careful when you're doing that, and make sure that you drink about a quarter. You don't need to drink it. If you're under 21, obviously you can just pour it out, but get it down to about 3/4 full. And then this is something that I do to supplement the lack of a flavor profile, as I put the seasoning in there. Now be careful when you're doing this, because it is going to fizz up all over the place, but it's great to get that seasoning in there because it mixes with the beer and that all evaporates into the chicken, which tastes great. Next step, you want to put that beer on the little grilling container. You can get these containers or these little beer can chicken holders pretty much any place that has grilling accessories. There are a lot of different types. I like this because you can make 2 at a time, but obviously I'm only making 1. And you just open up the ass of that chicken and stick it right on top, man. It is that simple. Then you just tuck the wings in, take that sucker over to the grill, put it in, and man, magically 3 to 4 hours later, you're good to go. Now in between, you're going to want to make sure you keep an eye on your heat. If it's too high, you're going to have some burned chicken on one side, which is okay if that happens. It's not a big deal. It's usually just the skin that gets burned. But you're going to want to try and avoid that by watching your heat. Open it up every now and then, like every half hour or so, just to make sure that your chicken's on track. But for the most part, man, the next 3 to 4 hours is just chilling, drinking, dancing, acting like an idiot, having a good time, because that's what grilling is all about, man. It's not about micromanaging what's going on in the grill. You just set yourself up for success, have a good time in between, open it up when it's ready, and enjoy. But that's all I have for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this outstanding method of cooking chicken. This is Sergeant Merrill, out here.